Okay, so here I'm just taking him off of the patient's pole. He had only been on that patient's pole for like 5 minutes while I just got all the gear ready. And I got a buddy with me. He's sitting over by the blue wheelbarrow. There he is. And we're both going to be working with Marky today because what we want to do requires two people. A lot of times the stuff with the horses requires two people, or at least it's best accomplished with two. And Derek, who's with me, he's not a horseman, he's not a cowboy, but he loves horses, and he goes on most of my trips with me. And so he's been a fantastic addition to Mustang medicine in the sense that, you just have open ears and open heart with him. So I'm going to be utilizing him today to work with Marky. So anyways, you'll see that as it comes through the video. Right now what I'm doing is I'm putting cufflinks on. These are just normal little neoprene cufflinks that you can buy at any of the equestrian stores, and they have a little carabiner on them. And so you might be hearing, while I'm doing the voiceover, I can't hear what's playing in the video, so the video is completely silent for me, but you might be able to hear the cufflinks walking around as soon as I get them on. And what I'm actually doing, I guess, trying to give you what's going on in my mind here, is I'm walking up to him. I want to see, do you keep your feet still? See how high his head is right now. Now it's starting to drop. See, it's starting to get a little bit lower. And the reason is if I remember properly, it's kind of hard to see on this little video, but I reached that cufflink out just to let him put his Fabrice on it. And so I'm going to rub the cufflinks all the way down his leg, all over the place. What I'm asking him is, how do you feel about this? See his head drop? So I'm tightening up that cufflink, and as soon as he felt that pressure around his ankle, he all of a sudden dropped his head. So these are all really, really good signs that, hey, meaning Marky is sitting there going, hey, I can start thinking through some of these problems. So whenever I put a cufflink on, I always want to ask, can I get this on you without you moving your feet? And he did fantastic there. And then also, how do you feel when we go take a couple steps with this clanking carabiner new piece of bling that you've got on your ankle now? And so again, you're gonna see me. So I'm telling him, just put your nose forward, and I've got that other cufflink, and so I'm just gonna put it on. I feel really confident that he's not gonna run off or he's got any issues with any of that. And again, I'd worked with him for about an hour earlier, and maybe a couple hours the day before, so I'm kind of getting a sense of who he really is. And now he's just, I've got these cufflinks on. I didn't ask him to walk. This is interesting. He just starts, there's me kind of talking to Derek, and I'm like, he's just doing this on his own. That's awesome. In terms of lunging, right? This is what they call lunging. So clearly he's been lunged many times before, and so I'm just taking it for what it is. I think it's great. I want to see a horse that isn't so programmed to do a thing. It's like, wait till we're doing it together. Don't just go do it, right? And that just requires a relationship. And And so I asked him right there, I'm like, well, okay, you want to walk in circles? Then trot. Now, you see his head is turning outside, meaning it's going away from the center of the round pen. And to me, this is more of like, I know I'm supposed to lunge, and so now I'm lunging, but I don't really have to pay attention, and so you don't want that nose to be see, he's looking at the other horses. He might even be talking to the other horses. Again, I can't hear anything. But you see, as soon as he comes around, he's actually more interested in being with the other horses than he is being with me. And so here he just slows down. So I just kind of let him do that. And I let him choose the gear because I was hoping that, how'd I say that? I want him to realize just because you got a lead line on and we're sitting in a round pen, that doesn't mean that you have to start lunging. Lunging is a specific activity, and I'm not asking you to do that. And so he got to kind of downshift the gear into a walk and then into like stopping. And if you notice, as soon as he stopped, I took a step back. And that just, again, kind of gives him some space. And I'm just slowly, gently reeling him in. There's a little bit of stiffness in him, but it's not bad. I think it's great, actually. Right, so I'm just giving him a little bit of a reward. What I think with Marky here is that he's been taught to perform, and with that performance comes some ability to, use your mind and turn your mind on and engage. But he wasn't really fine-tuned at doing it. Otherwise, his head would have been down. He would have been engaged in the lunging. He would have waited to be told to lunge. Those little things. I'm not critiquing Marky. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. And so I asked Derek, I said, okay, grab this surcingle. Surcingle is used in lunging and in long lining. A lot of like English and dressage work use those little surcingles. I don't use them for any of that. Maybe a little bit of long lining I'll do. But what we're going to do is just put this on. This is like putting on a cinch on a saddle. And so surcingle has these little D-rings that are on them. And what you do is you put a bridle on and you run a long line, like long reins, like 20-foot long reins, or longer. And you run them through those D-rings. And so then when you're lunging them around, you can work on them putting their heads in the right position and everything, because you have these reins that are connected. And the reins don't get all wrapped up in the feet because they run through the D-rings on that black cinch. But I'll show you what we're going to do with that here. So he's just coming on to the other side. And there's a little loop that's down at the bottom of that. And I'm just kind of instructing Derek. This is more, how to use the equipment. This isn't anything that you need to worry about. Don't do this at home. Don't do this with the horses. I'm just checking. Things, and I'm helping I want to get to deeper levels of their emotional well-being. And the way to get to the deeper levels of their emotional well-being is to put them under calculated pressure. Calculated means we're in a round pen. Nothing's actually going to hurt you. We've got the proper equipment. But the horse doesn't know any of that stuff, right? So I'm telling Derek, saying, here, pick the foot up. Let's see how soft he is when he picks his feet up. He actually picks his feet up quite well. And the thing that a horse uses to find safety is his feet. I mean, he finds safety when he's fighting, he uses his feet. When he's fleeing, he uses his feet. Even when it's frozen, his feet are frozen to the ground, right? Fight, flight, or freeze. And so that's that fear-based responses coming from the limbic brain. And so how soft a horse will pick their feet up gives you a sense of where they're at and how safe they feel. So if you can imagine, like Mustangs, when you get them, like, you have to help them build the confidence to give you your feet, because that's such a vulnerable thing, and it requires a tremendous amount of courage. Now with domestic horses, you still want to check and see where things are at. And so right here, it's hard to see because his leg's kind of hidden behind my leg, but I'm picking the foot up and then setting it down, and picking it up and setting it down, even in these little micro movements. Like I'm barely picking it up and then setting it down. And I'm just trying to show that when you don't give me your foot, more pressure is going to come. I'm going to tug just a little bit. I'm going to ask for that foot just a little bit more. But when you soften and give me the foot, then I'm going to stop asking for it. So again, it's one of those paradoxes. I want your foot until you give it to me, and then I don't want it. And that helps build the trust, because then, the horse is like, oh my gosh, what if I give you my foot? What if I give you my foot? And then, okay, now I'm going to give you my foot. And then, wait, you gave it back to me. Right? It just is, it like helps them to helps them to start building confidence. And what we've done is we've taken this carabiner that's on that cuff link, and we just hooked it to that loop. And I just want to see, okay, you'll give me your foot over and over and over and over, and that's awesome, but what happens if you can't get your foot back? So a lot of times when you're out on rides, you might step into some barbed wire, you might step into something, right? There's just stuff all the time. Maybe it's a plastic bag, and that horse they're so hardwired to find safety through their feet. And so in this calculated way, I want to just take that foot up just like a farrier would, right? When Michael is doing the feet, he's going to hold that foot up there. So that horse just needs to be able to stand there. But what happens is they start building confidence of, well, I'll give you my foot as long as you need it. And then like the farrier walks away, and then the horse gets his foot back. And so it's kind of a mind fry for the horse of, oh, the human walked away from me. Wait a sec, I don't have my foot. And that's why you saw him hopping around a little bit right there. What I'm seeing is, here's the principle. You don't know what you have until you have it under pressure. So everything can look really great at a certain level of pressure, but then up the pressure, and all of a sudden you might start seeing the wheels are shaking and you're getting speed wobbles, right? And it starts to get a little scary. And so as you're wanting to do some trail rides and stuff, I want to just get deep into the emotional well-being and the emotional depths of Marky to see, well, what happens if you can't have one of your feet? Are you going to take care of the rider? So again, an emotionally safe horse is a physically safe rider. And so see how nice and soft that was? He can't be soft unless he's thinking about it. So he wants to just put weight on that. Every time he goes to put weight, all of a sudden the foot's not there. Kind of loses his balance a little bit. And that's okay. They're perfectly strong. See that head come down? So it's like, okay, I got to think through this. Now here's what we could be seeing if I was really impressed with how well he did. Worst case scenario, you have a horse, you haven't, like, let's say I just took a horse, I didn't prep them at all for any of this, and you put it on there. I mean, they'd be three-legged sprinting around the round pen all over the place, because again, every time they move their feet, all they're saying is, well, maybe my safety's over here, and maybe I'll find it if I move my feet over there. And so for Marky, he's just going to follow me. So here I am, I'm just saying, hey, can you come over here? And you can see the slack in the rope. So you can see when I take that slack out and I kind of make it taut, and then I'm just allowing him to put his head down as much as he needs, because this is a moment that he's going to think. So he's feeling, he's under some emotional pressure, some difficulties here. And then I'm saying, hey, can you find me? So your foot's gone, but can you still follow me if I wanted to go take you on a walk? And he's got to put his head down. There's a ton of licking and chewing that's going on down here. He licks and chews immediately. That means he's self-regulating very, very quickly. So it's all very, very good stuff. I have another camera angle of this that's down in the round pen. It's over by that blue barrel. But we use Derek's camera to get that, and I need to go pick those videos up. So I'll make another one. He lives close by, and I'll go grab those videos from him and do this video so you can see the horse and my interaction with him a little bit better. So here again, there's nothing that we're trying to do. Meaning I don't have a task in mind. It's the goals and the results. So the goal is just to help him answer any questions of safety. And the result will be when he needs to move his feet, he'll move them really quickly. So meaning he'll respond quickly, but the muscle movements in his body will be nice and thoughtful. They'll be smooth. It's kind of like the Navy SEALs say, smooth is fast, right? So we want just real smooth movement, because that's very efficient. So here I gave Derek, I said, hey, just take him on a little walk, like have him take a couple steps forward. And again, Derek's not near as fine-tuned so in horsemanship or anything, so this is good. It's like Derek's going to miss some questions, but you'll probably miss questions. That's the reality of it. And so what would it look like if you were doing it, right? Or if you just have a novice out there doing it. And so Marky's just thinking through it, and everything's great. And see how low his head is, and he's putting his head down. And I'm out watering the dirt, if you know what I mean. So that's where I went. And yeah, so lowering the head, licking and chewing. You can see a moment if you work with the horses long enough, all of a sudden you start to feel when they get bored. So I've got Mustangs that have been through this training so much. This is why my Mustangs don't buck, they don't kick, they don't fight, they don't do any of these things, because they've done a lot of deep emotional work long before we were ever going out on rides and doing that. Going out on a ride is just a physical thing. They're just carrying you and moving their body. But that doesn't mean that they feel good emotionally. And an emotionally safe horse is a physically safe rider. So that's what we want. So I'm telling Derek, it's kind of hard to see, but I believe that this is a moment where I told Derek to let that foot back down. Yeah. And we're just gonna go take him on a walk. So he processed everything really well. He's self-regulated really well. And as soon as they're fine with, they've totally self-regulated, and it's like they don't even care that you have that foot up. Well, that's the moment to give it back to them, right? It's that paradoxical moment. So we just take him on a little walk, and then that kind of restores everything, and see him shaking his head like, whew, okay, yeah, this worked. Now look at how low that head is. And see, when you walk with Marky, you probably notice that he walks in front of you or he walks right next to you. He's kind of in your space. I get that there's a place that needs to be done in the show arena that makes sense in that environment, but I think in the environment that you're in and the relationship that you want your horse, you want Marky hanging back like how he is with Derek right now. Now, we didn't train the horse to walk back behind us. He just did it. Why did he do it? Because he had some emotional difficulties. It's like when you go to, we all have hard crap in life. We just do. And when you deal with it well, and meaning you deal with it with virtue, with character excellence, kindness and gentleness and empathy and you're slow about it, right? Meaning you're mindful, you're aware, you're thoughtful. You find the message within the mess. You become a better human being. It's the exact same thing with horses. So again, I always tell people, like, there's very few things that we need to train a horse to do. They know how to be a horse. They know how to do the right thing. What they don't know how to do is to think under pressure. And so thinking under pressure results in getting really good natural behavior. So now we're just swapping foots. You know, you could do it really well on one side. Can you do it really well with the left foot gone? And so we're just going to see, we're going to see what we got there. You don't know what you have until you have it under pressure. So, yeah, it looks like Derek's just clipping up that cuff link to the surcingle. Scout, my dog, you always see him just sitting there. Anytime I'm in the round pen, he's got to be in there. This is his life. I got him when he was a little tiny puppy, and he's almost 3 now, and every day of his life so far has been this. Okay, so right there, Marky went to go take a step like he normally would, and all of a sudden there was nothing to catch his weight supporting on, so he kind of did a little goofy stumble. It's totally normal about that. And so, again, we're just looking for licking and chewing. We're looking for his head down. What we want to see is exactly what we're seeing right now. We're seeing him self-regulate. We're seeing him be patient about it. We're not seeing a limbic response, a fight, flight, even a frozen or a collapse, right? There's no... All I'm doing there is I'm just picking up that other camera. And, his eyes. So what you're looking for is soft ears. Remember that's the ears that are kind of angled back. They're cocked back about 45 degrees. Soft ears and soft eyes. Soft eyes are like really, it's like you gave your horse cannabis or something. I mean, it's like they're going to fall asleep right there, right now. And he's been licking and chewing and processing so much. He's got so much dopamine and serotonin running through the system right now. He looked like he was about to fall asleep on us, which is so cool when you put that in context of we've just taken 25% of his safety that he normally uses, and we said, well, if we temporarily took that away in a very calculated, safe way, what would you do and how would you feel about that? And all he did was just self-regulate, think through it. It's just showing us that he's an emotionally safe horse. Is really what that's saying. And so, and most horses are right? I would say most horses, the vast majority of horses, figure this stuff out really, really well. So I think Marky's got some bad habits, but to put some empathy out there for Marky, and it's like, I think most humans have bad habits, right? There's always something we can improve. But generally speaking, Marky seems to be quite confident under pressure, and he does really well with that. And I know it looks like we're just standing there, and that's because we're just standing there. But what we're waiting for him is for him to kind of just self-regulate even deeper. And you saw that head come down. So again, we're just taking the time it takes for him to be able to have the time to self-regulate. What happens is a lot of trainers, a lot of people, they don't give their horse enough time. If I needed to sit there and wait for 30 minutes for him to self-regulate, I would wait 30 minutes. I'd just stand there and wait 30 minutes for him to self-regulate. If it took 3 minutes for him to self-regulate, it's like, great. And so then the question becomes, well, how can I tell when my horse is self-regulating or when he's not? And that's a feel. Again, this is one of those things that just comes with going to clinics, working with trainers, and with multiple horses, and you just start to sense and feel, because you start to pick up on all these little nuances, and you go, I think there's still something in there that the wheels in his mind are still turning, and you let them turn, and once they're done turning, then he's like, okay, got it. I'm safe. This feels great. So we've asked him to move forward, and it's a little klutzy and clumsy because, it should be that first few steps. But he didn't panic through that. He quickly reset himself. And I'm just asking Derek to, get that nose to turn around. Right, so she's asking Derek to come on different angles. You see that there's slack in the rope. So it's not like we're tugging on him or anything like that. There, now he's putting his head down and he's processing it. Once they've had a chance to process it, then you can ask for new things. See how nice and smooth that was? Right, that's really smooth because he's been giving a lot of time to be able to just sit and think about this stuff. And I think this is a 30-minute video. I think if you scaled it down to what we actually did, it's probably 7 minutes worth of stuff. But when you add in all the time of just letting them think and process, that's the most important part. See that little head turn? And here I'm going to tell Derek, every time he turns to kind of look at those horses or kind of engage with those horses, I'm just going to ask him to bring right there, right? I'd like to see Derek is a little bit faster, a little bit sooner, just to get Marky's attention back. So you want your horse facing you. Yeah, just like that. That would be considered facing you. And so maybe to clarify that, to face you is you want the horse mentally to be engaged with you. There you go. That head drop. So you see Derek's using rhythm on that rope. So it's taut and then it's loose, and it's taut and it's loose. Really, horses love rhythm. If you can use rhythm versus constant pressure. So he was a little frozen there. That's kind of where some of that struggle came from. but we're going to get him here to the point where he just starts walking around. And again, he's not panicking, he's not rushing around, meaning if you're in the saddle and something's getting all goofed up with his feet because he stepped into something or like that, this is probably what you're going to get. I had a horse one time that we stepped in some really deep mud. I mean, it went up like above his knee, and he went to pull. This is years ago, before I had fine-tuned my own horsemanship to the level I've got it now. And so I hadn't done some of this safety stuff, this emotional work with my horses. Was kind of a lot like, there he goes, now he starts moving. Then he really starts moving. Right? So this is just him asking questions. He's like, maybe my safety's over here. It's like, yeah, it's not. See, what we're really trying to teach the horse is that the safety is within you. It's inside of you. It's not over there. It's not over here. It's not by the ball. It's not by your other horse buddies. It's not over in the grass. It's nowhere except for inside of you. Same thing with humans. Right? This is what Jesus said, was the kingdom of God is inside of you. And I just think we've got to figure out our magnificence and who we really are, and then we can really start to own our magnificence. But in the process, we've got to go check some things out. Sometimes in the process, we got to figure out what we're not before we can figure out what we are. I got some buddies that have done some pretty goofy things in life, and they're the best people that I know, because what they learned in those earlier decades in life was who they're not. And now they really know who they are, because they definitely know who they're not. And so, the horse just going to move around, and what he's going to learn is, nope, safety's not over here, it's not over there. Safety's right here in with me. Now, Marky's mind is not very engaged. He keeps looking over there. I think Derek's going to undo that. So we don't want to do this for long periods of time. And again, if Marky wasn't ready for it, I would have done some other prep work. I did do some checking, but there's some prep work that you can do to help get your horse ready for, for this kind of activity. So my horse, that finished my story, my horse stepped into, and he went to pull his foot out, and there was suction from the mud, and so he panicked, right? Because if I'm gonna pull a couple times fairly softly, but oh my gosh, now I better pull as hard as I can, or else I'll never have my safety back again. And so that put him way up into the limbic brain. So he was just, and his thing was to run away, as is most horses. And so he was just, he would have been bucking if he could, but his one foot was stuck in this mud. So he finally loosed his foot out, and then that just sent him into just a whole series of bucking. I made it about 4 or 5 of the bucks before I came off. And he just he ran all the way back home, 2 miles or so, bucking as far down as I could see. He just couldn't handle that. And again, that was years ago, and it's funny to look back at the horses I used to ride. The horses I used to ride often, I wouldn't even get on these days.